call it people technology.
Well, the Rajasthan Royals are playing an innings which just doesn't seem to end, but there's an inevitability about what's happening in Abu Dhabi. Our focus for the time being will be on match 37, the game at Sharjah. Toss has already taken place between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Punjab Kings. Both teams suffering defeats in their last games. Different styles, though. Hyderabad hammered by the capitals, Punjab. Still trying to figure out how they've blown away those 2 points against Rajasthan Royals. This is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Carlos Brathwaite is still around. The morning just goes on. He's loving this. It's his first 5 a.m. media gig in the IPL for a double header. And Sanjay Manjrekar joins us, of course. He's a Sharjah specialist, so we bring him in as we look ahead to the Sharjah games. Good evening, Sanjay. Good morning, Carlos. And let's talk about the game that we've gone on offer. Sunrisers Hyderabad have won the toss. They're going to have a bowl first. Sanjay, this you think is a pretty big game. Sunrisers, you feel, are almost out of it, though not mathematically. And Punjab Kings, how on earth do they recover after what happened against the Rajasthan Royals?
It's important that they remain rational about what happened in the last game. They've got to keep that belief, and I hope there are enough people around to, motivate them into this game because that result was bizarre, and I don't think Punjab Kings really blundered so much to lose that game. And when you look at the points tally, they're at number 7. It's a little unfair, and it's a better team than that. It's a team that has played better than what we see on the points table. So that is something to his
Yes,
player. There's enough class there and ability.
absolutely. That points table is bound to change a little bit. We have another 2 overs or so, just under 2 overs between the Royals and the Capitals. And barring a miracle, this should be 2 more points for Rishabh Pant's side. That'll take them up top. Rajasthan will remain in that what promises to be a bit of a scrap now for what will be fourth place. But Carlos, toss has taken place. Hyderabad are bowling first, and we know that Nathan Ellis has been handed a debut. So we'll just confirm inexpensive whom. If Chris Gayle plays today, that should be fun because we thought he might play at Sharjah. But that's the one change we know has happened. They're bringing in a specialist bowler.
Yeah, Nathan Ellis is exciting. Um, Not to compare them to, but having played against them, it was surprising that Riley Meredith went in the auction for as much as he did before
Hmm.
Nathan Ellis. Very skillful bowler, can get it through as well, and at the death has a nice back of the arm slow ball and can hit the straight or wide Yorker. So we'd love to see how he gets on. A lot of pressure for his IPL game, but no better setting than Sharjah to make your name as a pacer. Because if you do in Sharjah, you'll be revered and talked around all around the world. So good opportunity for him.
Yeah, absolutely. They like their Australian overseas quicks, the Punjab Kings. Richardson and Meredith went out. Nathan Ellis has come in. He gets a cap. But that's one of three changes for KL Rahul's side. Sanjay, Chris Gayle does play. So too does Ravi Bishnoi. So those are the changes. We'll just confirm for whom, but we can make educated guesses as to who. Therefore, Sanjay is pumping his fist. Tell me why, Sanjay.
These were the three changes I had in my famous diary, the IPL diary, and these were the three changes. Bishnoi, was an easy choice. This is Sharjah. This is a different Sharjah pitch where the spinners are ruling, can rule. So Bishnoi coming in quick wrist spinner, and if I don't know whether they've left out Adil Rashid for Bishnoi as
Yeah,
the
I'll
spinner in the
just I'll
team. When
just
you have,
confirm the three out. I
I'm
could
guessing
confirm the
Fabian
three out.
Allen, Adil
Yes.
Rashid would
Yeah.
be out, and
And
Pooran.
Ishan Porel. Yes, Ishan Porel. Well done, Sanjay. Yeah, you've got that right.
Yeah, I mean, this happens very rarely, Carlos, so don't be too impressed. This is something that I pull off
I
once
am
in three
impressed. I am
seasons.
impressed.
Then once
Yeah.
in 3 seasons. This is one of those times. It's a bit like Riyan Parag's batting contribution.
My. Sanjay, you had something spicy for your evening supper, so let me go to Carlos. We are ready to see the first of Chris Gayle today, Carlos.
The universe boss, Sharjah, the
Hmm.
bungles won't be big enough for him. And I'm looking forward to seeing some spin at him and hopefully a few massive sixes. Um, he's only not gotten a 50 so far, high score 46, but that strike rate of 133. We know that could easily be 160, 170 on his day. Um, as Sanjay mentioned, it'll be interesting to see what number he bats. Will he split up Mayank and KL Rahul and go left right? or will he bat down the order as he did, I think, either last season or season before, where he batted
Yeah.
at 5 a couple of games, and then try to really take the attack to the spin in the middle overs.
Yeah, yeah, 42, just 4 days back. So Chris Gayle still seems to be going strong. Did bat three and successfully for the Punjab Kings. That's where he stays, Sanjay.
No, really. I mean, my respect for KL Rahul will grow immensely if he offers that position to Chris Gayle, And Carlos made an excellent point the other day about this venue, Sharjah, and we've seen it's a tricky pitch. But when you play Gale, you have this tremendous sort of hope that he'll take the pitch out of the equation, as Carlos mentioned, and do something that lesser mortals will struggle to keep up. And you've got to give him that platform right at the start. Pressure grows, as we saw, with Maxwell and AB de Villiers. We're coming in a little later. KL Rahul has the class and the ability, his self-confidence. He's an established player of this team, so maybe he can take on the more difficult job and offer that platform to Gale and not disturb Aiden Markram at number 3 and Mayank Agarwal open. I'd like, that to happen. Won't happen. So we'll see whether Chris Gale bats at number 3 and Markram goes down the order, or Gale goes at 4 or 5.
What this does to that batting order, and if you bring that up, since Aiden Markram keeps his place, Carlos, I'm wondering if this isn't such a great thing for Nicholas Pooran. It looks like these four would almost have to bat in the top four, and Pooran would be, confined to what's a tough job, which he struggled to do in the first leg of the IPL at 5 and 6.
Yeah, but I mean, that has been his role. And when you look at the teams he's played in, even Guyana, save for 1 or 2 games, he would normally bat 5 and 6. And at times he even batted at 7 and 8 when they lost a few early wickets and sent a couple pinch hitters in. So I think it's a role that he is familiar with, that kind of finisher role, and is one that the West Indies will want to play in the World Cup as well. So for him, he hasn't had the best IPL, but he came off a CPL where he got a few scores. Unfortunately, one against my Jamaica Tallowers, a 70 odd. So he has some runs in the bank, and if they get off to a poor start, he still has time. If the team is doing well, then you see the Shimron Hetmeyer kind of cameo today at 23 or 15. They're a lot more appreciated in modern day cricket now. It's not just looked as 20, but you respect and you appreciate the strike rate. So I think if we look at Nicholas Pooran to get 60s and 70s, then you start to think he's under a bit of pressure batting so low. But if you look at the all-round player that Pooran is, who can come in and give you a quick cameo a la Hetmeyer today, but also play the long game, then you start to think that it's actually a very nice position for Punjab Kings to be in.
We're going to come to that Hetmeyer innings once we have the formal result of the Rajasthan Royals Delhi Capitals game, which is now certainly going the Capitals' way. But as I look at that team, Sanjay, we've established they can tell themselves they played the better cricket for a large part of that game against Rajasthan Royals. They still made these three changes. You've given Adil Rashid just the one game, you've given Fabian Allen just the one game. This is something that Punjab tend to struggle with. They make a lot of changes after 1 or 2 games. Does that tell you something about this team?
Unless they want to say this is horses for courses. Sharjah, we've got already Harpreet Brar there, and we want to just have another, good spinner. And Bishnoi is the kind of spinner that you want on these kind of pitches. But, in the last game as well, I was surprised that Adil Rashid played as the foreign player. And inclusion also. So maybe they may see that they rue a match later. But argue that these are changes meant for Sharjah. Gale certainly looks like one.
Talk a bit about the Sunrisers Hyderabad too. I'll just confirm they're playing 11 for you, and this is a team that does seem to be struggling. It looks like they've carried their poor form from the first half of the IPL into this one. But as I go through that team, no changes. So that's interesting that they stick with the
Strange.
same team that went down to the Capitals. Sanjay Manjrekar already saying he's a bit surprised by that. Carlos, thoughts?
I'm happy. I think we just mentioned the Kings not being consistent enough. It's easy when you're losing to chop and change and chop and change. But I mean, for Sunrisers, is the last dance. If they lose today, mathematically they're out. And I think
Hmm.
you want to go down with the playing 11 that you think is your best. You lose today and you're out, then some guys need to understand, well, look, you got a chance, you didn't bring it home for us, and now we can give a chance to young Indian players or probably some debuts to some international players. So
Hmm.
they know that it's last chance saloon. Um, and I think as a franchise, you want to be known for backing your players. You want that CSK, that Mumbai Indians confidence from your backroom staff, from your coaches, that they're going to back you. So although it hasn't been the best season, and I think everyone in that franchise could hold their hand up and say
Hmm.
that, mathematically we can qualify, and we want to play our best team to try to give ourselves the best chance of qualifying.
Hmm. Sanjay, you said strange when you saw that, but you look at the reserve options that they have. Would there have been any changes you would be tempted to make?
I think now in hindsight, slight overreaction, calling it strange, but I'm a
Yeah.
little surprised. I'm a little surprised that they haven't picked Nabi. Because just imagine the kind of left-handers that you have in Punjab Kings. A lot of them Gale playing as well, and Nabi on this pitch. I'm assuming that the pitch is similar to the one that we had in the last game at Sharjah. I would have gone
Yes.
more with Nabi. I'm not expecting anything sensational from Jason Holder in the kind of conditions that you have in Sharjah. You know, you need either some really quick bowlers,
Hmm.
and I'm glad, Nathan Ellis has got a game in this match. But either you have those kind of quick bowlers or you have the Sandeep Sharma kinds to, sort of be useful on this kind of a pitch. So, assuming that the pitch is a turning one, we'll see how that goes because Nabi would have been, perfect for the batting order that you see with Punjab Kings.
Assuming it is similar to what we saw last night between Bangalore and Chennai, Carlos, would you have made way for would you have had Jason Holder make way for Mohammad Nabi?
Yeah, it sounds like a good change. I think we forget Nabi is also a quality bat.
Yeah,
Bats
yeah,
five
yeah.
for Afghanistan. So you don't lose anything with the bat with Nabi. And I think over the course of this auction period between the last big auction and now, Sunrisers have been in a sometimes a good position where they know three of the overseas in Rashid Khan, David Warner, Kane Williamson, and then they always struggle to find the balance with our fourth overseas. And it felt as though Jason Holder gave them a very nice balance as the all-rounder last season, and this season as well. And then it probably they're saying, you know what, have a go. You're in our strongest 11, but if you're talking horses for courses, and from what we've seen from the last game, Nabi would have been a fantastic option as well. He has a
Hmm.
great batting tempo, and I think we always talk about the off breaks. We know you can bowl at any stage, whether power play, middle, or back end. But I think one thing that is lost upon most pundits and fans, sometimes even players, is his batting ability. He can win a game with you for you with the bat at any point in time. So it would have been
Hmm.
a good change. And yeah, apart from my consistency comment, that would be one change that would have been a decent one in my opinion.
Hmm. Well, Jason Holder has put in some sort of contribution almost every time he's been given a game, at least in the UAE. So we'll see how things go. But let's talk about certain aspects of both these two teams now as we look ahead to this game. I can tell you that the Rajasthan Delhi game has concluded, 33-run win for the Delhi Capitals. We'll come back to that in just a bit now because that game seemed inevitable, that result, for a long time almost. So let's just focus on Hyderabad against Punjab, shall we? And we've got an interesting sort of lineup of bowlers here, Sanjay, where you've got Arshdeep and Mohammad Shami, who really look like they've been bowling right through this break. They're in red hot form. They got it right in the first game. You also have Bhuvneshwar Kumar on display. And it's interesting that Arshdeep, Shami boast of some great numbers bowling at the death. You look at some of the best economy rates there, and you've got Mohammad Shami and you've got Arshdeep. Now, you may not like the economy, it may seem high, but the fact remains they get you a lot of wickets too. That's something else that we've discussed. Bravos, there you could see the average is only close to 8. And if you look at Bhuvaneshwar Kumar and how he's gone in the death overs this season, that's a 13.4. He's also been a bit shy of the wickets. There are a couple of conversations to have here, Sanjay. One about the bowlers for their franchises. The other that there could very well be a call for the Indian team to make as to who partners Jasprit Bumrah if it is a two-man pace attack and a two-man spin attack at the World Cup. And you think Bhuvi and Shami are competing for that?
Yes, Deepak Chahar would be my choice because I think he is in the prime of his, bowling career for India. I'm
Hmm.
not sure whether he's in the
He's
quarantine
in the
squad
he's
or
in the
he's in the,
four reserves. Yeah, he's in the reserves. So unless they draft him in,
yeah.
I guess we'll have
I
to wait
mean,
and see.
that is, yeah, what's happened, obviously, they've gone with the experience of Bhuvneshwar Kumar, big name player. But if you look at Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Trent Bolt, both of them going through the same kind of phase. The thing about T20 cricket is that there are no easy balls for the bowlers to bowl. They've got to be right there with their slower deliveries, the Yorkers, everything's got to be 100%. And that's where Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, in the last couple of seasons, he's an excellent cricketer, brilliant mind, tremendous guy to have in the team. But fitness has, got the better of him. And that is why, you see that economy rate and him not making as much an impact is something that has, plagued him in the last 2, 3 years. Trent Bolt is another guy in that list. And I was watching him closely in the last game and marking down the speeds that he was bowling at. His fastest ball in the last game that he bowled was 134. So whenever a guy loses speed, maybe it's a fitness issue or something, they become vulnerable. And finally, Kyle Jamieson at the top there surprises me with the economy.
Right. If you just talk a bit about Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Carlos, you've shared the dressing room with him for the Sunrisers. Seems like a couple of years have taken a toll on Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Had a good comeback for India in the series in
Yeah.
Sri Lanka, but you're also seeing Mohammad
And
Shami
England
now at
too.
his tail up. Yeah. How do you compare both of these seamers?
Yeah, I feel as though for Bouvier it's been a bit of a curve. Remember Bouvier 4 years ago, probably, and you always thought if he adds a yard of pace, he'd be destructive. Swung the ball both ways, and he just felt as though he needed to get from 132, 133 to 140. And then there was a 2 year period where he shot up from 132 up to 138, 140, and he was unplayable. Developed a knuckleball that also swung in or out. So he had pace on, swinging both ways, and the knuckle, two up top, come back in the death and hit the Yorker, and he was unplayable then. And then he had the injury, and for the last 2 years, is almost has been back to the beginning of that curve where he's searching for that pace. And as a result of being a bit slower, as Sanjay mentioned, your margin for error is a lot less. So
Hmm.
now the balls that were being driven to cover are going through cover or back past him, or all of a sudden being hoisted back over his head. So you talk about just the one percenters in professional cricket and losing speed 5, 6, 7 k's an hour can have such a big impact on the results of a ball or over ultimately a spell, and then it makes persons question your form. So I'm not sure if he's 100% comfortable in his body yet. When you come back from injury and you're clear to play, that's sometimes 50% of the work done. The other 50% is actually being mentally ready to trust your body and go flat out. Is he bowling within himself, or is he giving it as much as he's got and his body not responding? With a few questions that we hope will be answered before the World Cup for Indian fans because they want the best Bhuvaneshwar Kumar on show. And if he doesn't answer that call, then Shami seems to be a well-oiled machine. Runs in and bowls like a Rolls Royce. Always love to
Yeah.
watch him. So smooth, and he's executing. So you'd have to go with form over sentiment in that case.
All right, there's a call for the Indian team to make. They're going to be monitoring. You think whoever has a better IPL makes a very strong case to play that first game in the Super 12s against Pakistan in the T20 World Cup. That's for the bowling aspect of Punjab and a little bit of the Sunrisers. The batting conversation is essentially always about Rahul Agarwal and Gayle when they play. So let's just have a look at some of the numbers here. Mayank Agarwal and KL Rahul seem to be a partnership that you just cannot seem to displace if the numbers are anything to go by. But if we look at their century stand, Sanjay, in the IPL, 4 out of the 5 times that they've got a 100 plus partnership, Punjab end up losing. I perhaps to some of those games where they're games that they should have won, and it's not Rahul and Mayank's fault, after a 100 plus partnership that perhaps that they lost. But it is a curious stat to look at, isn't it? Tells you something?
Yeah, that's why I love working for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent, table there, and whoever picked that out, that's brilliant. Uh, there is one very simple way to look at things, and then it's always a little more complicated than that. And we've covered these matches, right? Where we've seen Mayank Agarwal and K. Rahul have these long partnerships. and it goes on into the 15th, 16th over. And then, both of them get out. Sometimes one guy gets out. And then what they've struggled with is the guys coming in have not been able to take on from where they left off. So that is one of the dangers in T20 cricket when you have long partnerships. And we've seen that happen already once or twice this half of the IPL. New guys who come in. We saw with Virat Kohli and Devdutt Padikkal as well. Once Virat was gone, it's not easy for guys coming in unless the pitch is really flat or they are in tremendous form. And none of the guys down the order for Punjab Kings are guys with a lot of self confidence. So that is one of the reasons you see that, and it's again an indication of not so much about aggregate runs really. I mean, it's far more complicated and hence so exciting, this T20 format. It's just about everybody chipping in at the right time. Shimron Hetmeyer could be the player of the match in this afternoon game.
Yes, absolutely. Carlos, I wonder how you'd feel about that. Say, as one of those overseas middle order players, you think that's why you get you in from the auction for. You got to finish games off after these two have, given you starts. And if we look at some close games they've been in, you'll get an idea for the Punjab Kings why they've not been able to get over the line. There's a game. This was the most recent game, of course, a few days back against Rajasthan, where Karthik Tyagi bowled that terrific over. There's a game last year in the IPL when Sunil Narayan turned the game bowling at the death. They got lost a couple of wickets and choked in a chase, fell short by 2 runs. There's the game that Rajasthan beat Punjab in. That was the Sharjah game, of course, where Sheldon Cottrell bowled to Rahul Tewatia. That game turned on its head as well. And the Delhi Capitals game that started early on in last year's IPL. Mayank Agarwal got, I think, 99 or so, and then there was that short run that wasn't given. Those are the games we're looking at. But just to give you some context of some really close games that Punjab have not won, that's 6 points last year, maybe 2 this year. That could have made a huge difference to the fortunes of the Punjab Kings. But I come back to it. That's a list of close games, many of which have not been completed by, you could say, the middle order. Now, does it just tell you the middle order needs to stand up? That's the person that you've got to address, or do you cater to Sanjay's view that somewhere the top two also perhaps need, things need to change there for this to be fixed?
Yeah, I think you got to look at it game by game because you have to assess the tempo. They normally start quite slowly, but once they get going, they get 70 off 40 balls. Now, if they're getting 65 off 50 balls, then there's a bit of concern there because you're then asking the middle order to come in and score at 170, 180, 200 strike rate, which you're not going to get for 2 or 3 times out of 10. But if the tempo is good and you're just not getting over the line, like in one of the games, Ready Bowling let them down the other day when they lost by 2 runs. I don't really think you could blame the top order for giving the team a good platform. The middle order just needs to step up. And as a team, good teams find a way to win. It seems as though Punjab are finding ways to lose. I don't think that's just down to the top order batting, but they need to start to ask themselves serious questions. It could be how they're training. Maybe everyone is going into bat as though they want to build an innings and then power the ball. And then when they get into the game and you have to power the ball from the beginning is uncomfortable. The way that players train these days, I'm sure that's not the case. I know a lot of players go into the net. Sometimes they hit 12 balls. I bat at the back end. I'll only bat 12 balls. I go into the nets, I face 12 balls, I set a scenario, set a target, I try to get it, and then afterward, I come into the net and get some balls with the arm from one of the coaches, or I bat some spin if it struggles, whatever. So there are a number of reasons. Is it how we prepare? Is it how we plan? I don't think we could put it just down to the openers, but they also have to take a look at themselves. Would some of those 120-run partnerships into the 15th over actually being better if 90 off 10, and then giving the rest of the order 10 overs to come in and play the shots? I mean, if you get to 90 off 10 and you keep going, all of a sudden you're 150 off 10, well, I mean, you can't point any fingers at your top order. But if you're just struggling and creeping lost the 15, 16, but you can't really be too upset when the team moves 160.
Sanjay?
I'd like to ask Quick Info, something that you're trying to sort of promote and plug in, is whether that's the case with most franchises. if they have long partnerships, because we saw it happen with RCB as well, an opening partnership that continued into the uh, 14th, 15th over or even more. Whether that is
Hmm.
something that is something very unique with T20 cricket, it would be interesting to see, long partnerships in a particular innings and the result for that particular team. But coming back to Punjab Kings, I don't think they'll change the order unless, no, the order is the same. I'm just watching
Yeah.
Mayank Agarwal and KL Rahul come in. So it is incumbent, I guess, on people like Pooran and all to do the tough job. I've always believed that, if there is some problem down there, the best player in the team goes down there and solves it. And then who do you pick in the top three who's capable of doing it? Not Makram, not Mayank Agarwal, not Gayle, maybe KL Rahul.
Interesting. Yeah, and they do have a genuine replacement at the top of the order. It's not like they have to put in a makeshift opener. So maybe batting first will change Punjab's fortunes. This is, of course, a big game
Can I
for them if
quickly
they don't
also
want to get
say,
into the wrong
sorry,
side.
that was the point I wanted to make. Sorry, Ron, very sorry to
Please,
interrupt.
Sanjay.
I was just
Please.
looking at the Punjab playing 11 and Carlos, I'm looking at it and thinking, that's a bloody good team out there.
Hmm.
I mean, look at the players. They've got KL Rahul, Mayank Agarwal, Chris Gayle, right? And they've got a Pooran who can be, one of the best batters batting at that position if it's his night. Then you've got Bishnoi, who's a proven, good bowler. Look at Mohammad Shami there. And Harpreet Brar and Arshdeep Singh on current form are right up there with most bowlers in this
Yeah.
IPL. So when I'm looking at that team, I'm thinking, what are they doing at number 7? Let's hope
Hmm.
cricketing logic prevails and we see this team come into the final four. But it's a shame when you have players like those and
Hmm.
not make it in the top four.
Yeah, back you come with your
Agree.
cricketing logic. Yes, and it's been good. It's always
Mine,
held you well. Yeah, of course.
mine could be completely wrong, but mine.
The thing is, cricketing logic should tell you Punjab should beat Hyderabad. It's been a wretched season for the Sunrisers, and Punjab has played
True.
better cricket. But God only knows what happens when the Punjab Kings play. So we'll find out when they bat first. Before we move, we wrap things up though. Let's get a quick couple of comments on the earlier game today between Delhi Capitals and Rajasthan. Concluded in a 33-run win for the Capitals. Carlos, at halftime in that game, you and me spoken. We weren't sure if 154 is below par or is going to be a really tricky chase. Now we know how good it was.
Yeah, you never rate the pitch unless you see both teams back. And it seemed a real struggle for Rajasthan. And at the halftime, we spoke about the spin not getting wickets, and Delhi trying the best to get out of a stranglehold. The only person that really got away was Shimron Hetmeyer. But you saw the difference in class from the Delhi batters to the Rajasthan batters, because although they struggled, they managed to always get a score, always get a score, always keep it ticking over. So everyone that got in got a score. Yes, they got out, and that's why they didn't get to 170. But the nature of the pitch meant that 156, 160 would have always been a tricky chase. And it felt as though Rajasthan pulled the trigger a little too early,
Hmm.
without just playing proper cricket shots, being positive. You had Liam Livingston charging down the track, David Miller, two senior international batters, chipping injudiciously against Ashwin in the power play. So when you lose early wickets like that on a tough track, you're always clawing your way back. And the quality of the Delhi team prevailed, and it showed why they're at the position that they're
Hmm.
at.
Yeah, we weren't quite sure, Sanjay, what to make of this game, but you made the point a bit earlier. Sometimes in games like this, just that 28 of 16 from a Shimron Hetmeyer could just have the match defining impact. It might just be a matter of the match for a 28.
Absolutely. And once they lost Tevatia in the last few overs, getting 30 runs and over was always going to be difficult.
As we talk about the quality of Delhi's bowling as well, Carlos, you've got the most expensive bowler. I think is Avesh Khan, who's gone for 29 of his four. Just tells you nobody gave it away. Everybody bowled in that 5 to 6 range. Ashwin got it right today as well. This is the
Oh, he got a
strongest.
wicket as well. His
Yes,
second.
David Miller. Yes, Carlos. This is the perhaps the most well-rounded, well-balanced bowling attack. Maybe the best bowling attack in the league.
Yeah, I think it is. You talk about Nortje again, sensational. It doesn't seem as though he's doing much with the ball. Not massive out swingers, not massive in swingers. There's not much left or right off the surface either. But it just is, it seems to be an immaculate line and length. Is not drivable. Can't get back and slap him off the back foot, and he's just thereabouts all the time. He comes slightly fuller when he realizes he pushes you back, and it speaks volumes of the fact that we aren't talking that much about Rabada, who's a proven
Mm.
new ball bowler and fast bowler in his own right, whether it's taking wickets or stopping the flow of runs. And all the conversation has been around North there. So for Rabada to be playing second fiddle and continue to do the things he's been doing over the last 3 or 4 seasons, you add in Ashwin, who actually come to the party today and get a wicket with the ball. We can't look much further than this Delhi bowling lineup is probably one of the best in the tournament, if not the best.
All right. Well, I've seen that Sanjay Manjrekar is slotted to do the preview for the next Rajasthan Royals game. So I'm going to save a Rian Parag question for him at that point. We're going to leave it now. Uh, Thank you very much to Sanjay as well as Carlos Brathwaite. We will pick up this conversation about the Punjab innings in 20 overs time. It's a big game for them, remember. So let's see how many they get batting first this time at Sharjah, where RCB struggled last night. Join us on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout.
We call it people technology.